Welcome, this is David Maiolo. This is my CSCI S-3 graduate project for summer of 2020 here at Harvard University. And a little bit about me. This is my 5th class towards my information management systems degree. I'm a cloud engineer at Microsoft. Been here for about 3 years, and cool tidbit about me is I've traveled to a whole bunch of cities, about 310 in 2019. So my job gets me all over the place. So for this graduate project, I just wanted to talk about one of the most fundamental, I think, structures that JavaScript kind of requires when dealing with an HTML document, which is really what we're trying to do here in this course, is manipulate HTML using JavaScript. And a way you can kind of think of an HTML document that could be manipulated by JavaScript is that it is this document kind of laid out almost in a way with these nodes and elements that would allow an API, kind of any API you could think that might manipulate something on the web to access these elements and either maybe read from them or send something back to them. So you can think, the HTML document might just be represented as, these paragraph elements or header elements, something like that. And is there a way that we could use JavaScript to, find a way to manipulate, read from, things like that. So sometimes the easiest way to really understand what I'm talking about is just to go straight into an example. And that's what JS Fiddle is really good for if any of you have used this before. So let's take a look at a very, very simple HTML page. This here, let's not think about any of the other code we see here. This page here is just a very simple document that has these, paragraph pieces, and it's got this button with this ID, and it's got this span here with this ID of right. And you could tell just on its own, this doesn't do anything super useful. It maybe lays out the elements for a page, but beyond that, the HTML is pretty basic. If we jump down to the JavaScript here and we think about how this document might be represented as this document object, we can see, for example, where we can create this variable. Let's call it the button, and we are going to use this get element by ID, and you can see that our button has the ID of B, and we're going to turn it into something that we can then have as an object inside of JavaScript to do something with. And now we can see that once we've brought this button in, we have an onClick method that's available. And so we just do the button dot onClick, and we're going to have that equal a function we wrote down here. And this would just be like a function you wrote in any program. And let's kind of continue with this logic here. We have a box that we're creating, this variable box, and we're gonna just parse it as an integer. But same thing, we're gonna get the element by ID f, and take a look. We'll see that we have this ID f, which is this number here, and we have another one which is s. So we're going to create another variable, and that's this little text box here. So you kind of see how JavaScript and HTML are talking to each other here. We have our elements, kind of our objects and things created over here, just like you would think of with very, very basic JavaScript. But now we're doing something with them down here. And let's look at something else. So we created this another variable, result, and that is greatest of the two of box 1 and box 2. Oh, look, we've got another function, greatest of box 2. This is very simple. It's just going to return what would be the greatest of those two numbers, and it's going to come down here as the result. And look here, we're going to get another element called right, and we're actually now going to have that element equal our result. So we can kind of see full circle where earlier here we're pulling the data from the elements in to become variables, and now we've taken an element and we're going to have that equal our result to be the output. So let's say we did like 7 and 8, and we hit get the larger, we see 8. And if we look again how it worked through all this, we had our button that came in as an element, and that had method available to it, just not one that we wrote, just any button would have that's on click, so we know what to call when it's clicked. That pulls up this function we wrote called feed the button. It essentially equals the result of this function. And we can see here where this gets the variables of each of those text boxes. We run some little arithmetic on them, get the result, and then we write it back out. So see, full circle. We just manipulated this website using JavaScript, and you'll find that you can do a lot cooler things than this. You could create your own elements that might not even be up here in the HTML. We could maybe, for example, create another text entry, another box, and there's ways to do that in JavaScript. Same kind of concept. We would just maybe create them entirely in the code here and then add them, and this maybe have a span area where those are they're going to find themselves, much like we put the result here into this span. So there's a lot of cool things you can do, and you can see that the static nature of HTML once presented as this DOM object, and there's other ways you can manipulate the DOM object. You don't have to use JavaScript. It's just a very popular one. That's obviously what we're doing in this course, but you can see now really the incredibly dynamic nature that you can manipulate this website. So perhaps another way to do this would be through maybe PHP or something like that, where you have a server side language that's maybe doing some of the the dynamic manipulation of the website. But you can see that this is more of a client side thing, right? This is code running on the client that is accessible to the client. So it's a different way of thinking of dynamically generating content for a website. So I hope this was helpful. That is my kind of DOM example here in JS Fiddle, and I wish everybody a safe and healthy summer 2020, and hope to see you in the fall. Thanks.